across the World Wide Web, on your mobile devices, on social media platforms. This is Jambo Radio! www.jamboradio.co.uk. We are multilingual. We are conversational in the languages you best understand. We are Jambo Radio! Jambo Radio, inspiring transformation.
You are listening to Jambo Radio Scotland, online, on your smart speakers, and on DAB digital radio in Edinburgh and Glasgow. You can download the Jambo Radio app on Google Play and App Store. Now, it's time for our conversations with inspirational individuals in Scotland and beyond. This is a moment with Sade and Enoch.
Let Juliet do it. Sorry, I'm not...
Hello and welcome to another episode of Moments with Sade and Enoch. So we do around the house. So my name is Enoch and I've got on my right hand side,
Juliet.
I've got
Sade.
and I've got the wonderful
Janet.
Janet is joining us on the show. Janet's joining us on the show today. So Janet is I was going to say repeat customer. So Janet joined us late last year, November. So it feels like ages ago. We even had to say Happy New Year. We've not seen each other this year. Janet joined us to share, I guess, what will be described as a story. I can't think of any word to sort of buttress it. As an amazing story. And the story has a lot of vulnerabilities in it. And what Janet is trying to get us to, or where she's trying to get us to, is for us as a society, and especially for us as a community, black community or ethnic minority communities, to sometimes speak out, sometimes be more vulnerable. But before we jump into that, if you want to join us on the show today, you can call us. It's 01415302787, or you can send us a WhatsApp. It's 07459906822. You can also reach us on Facebook. It's Jambo Radio Scotland.
And we're also on Twitter at Jambo Radio 1, on Instagram at jamboradio.scotland. And if you want to send us emails about your comments and your contributions, just send us an email to info@jamboradio.co.uk.
And we will hopefully be on TikTok at some
Very
point
soon.
in the future. I wonder what that would be. Jambo Radio Scotland or Jambo Radio.
Just start thinking about the difference in your voices, because yours is like ho ho ho, and I can imagine it for the listeners. Ours can put you to bed, and yours can keep me awake all night.
Sure. Well, if it's a radio show, we're supposed to keep people up, right? We're supposed to.
Anyway.
Oh Lord, I have offended someone today.
Yes.
And you know, the convention today, within our community, there is a lot of hurt. There is a lot of abuse that happens within the community, and the unfortunate part of that is we don't talk about it. There's a golden rule that, you know, we don't wash our dirty laundry out in the open, not even outside the family, not to talk about outside the community. We just keep it in the family, or keep it locked down, just because of to protect the family name. And you know, a lot of people are suffering with this. A lot of children, a lot of husbands, a lot of wives, a lot of generational suffering, because then someone suffers from it, they pass that pain and that trauma to the next generation, and that just continues. But our guest today, Janet, who's come back for the second part of our story, has decided she's going to break that cycle. She's going to make herself vulnerable, and she's hoping her story can hopefully inspire someone out there to rethink their own position and what they want to do with their own experiences, or something that is happening to someone around them. So Janet, for those that are just joining us, that maybe did not catch the first part of the show, and just for those of you that didn't catch it, I mean, Janet will do a recap now, but you can go back on our YouTube channel to watch the whole episode, and you can go on Jambo Radio app, download the app, and look for that show and listen to it as well. But Janet, if you can be kind enough to just do a quick recap in maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. 3 minutes, please. Keep me honest with time.
That's our timekeeper. So Go.
Yes, so obviously last time we sort of covered my journey to date. I was born in Democratic Republic of Congo, Kinshasa in the capital, raised by my parents obviously, but my mom and father sort of separated when she was pregnant with me. So I spent a few years with my mother before my father then took custody for the sort of last 3 years of my life in DRC. I left at the age of 10, where I was sent to live with an aunt in Italy, where I started experiencing my first, I guess, level of abuse, which was more on a sort of domestic level. So I was beaten up. I was pretty much used as a house help, I think, to put it lightly. I lived in Italy for a year, and the aunt's marriage dissolved, which then brought us to the UK to live with. We moved to the UK because 2 of her family members lived here, so that basically then took us to the sort of next level of abuse that I sort of sustained in her hands. I managed to sort of leave that house to go and live with another aunt, but certain circumstances also happened during that period where I was then assigned to go and stay with an uncle, and that's where I then experienced a sort of sexual abuse from him. I definitely wanted to take my life. I attempted to take my life, but God definitely decided otherwise and sent me an angel. Till this day, I definitely see that person as that, who basically kept me on the phone talking without even realizing that I was literally about to take my own life. So once I woke up, definitely decided that, I need to do something about it. And at the time, my sister was living in Liverpool. So when she sort of got in contact, I sort of opened up to her, and she managed to sort of organize for me to leave London and move to Liverpool with her. Trying to stay in the 3 minutes. Once I obviously got to Liverpool, I think where we left off is that I found out that I was pregnant, and obviously the pregnancy was from the abuser.
Okay.
That's a lot to unpack in 3 minutes.
Yeah, well done. I mean, so I've been part of that story, so I don't know if you guys have any part of that you want to dig into before we sort of move forward.
Being the first time, it's my own first time.
Yeah, just trying to take it in.
I'm still trying to. Yeah, because abuse is one topic that gets to me a lot, and those that are close to me know. But I hope that even through her talking today, I can learn to probably understand and know how to. It's a lot. Really, listening to it is a lot for me. But yeah, I think for now I'll just pause.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, so you got to Liverpool. This was 2000 and...
2000 and... no, actually it was the end of 2000.
End of 2000, okay.
So it was around like the November, December time.
Okay.
So I took a test and, found out that I was pregnant. And interestingly, abortion wasn't the first thing on my mind. For me, it was like, this is my proof. It wasn't even connection with, my first child or whatever. I'm like, I will carry this so that I have proof of what I went through. But I ended up losing the pregnancy. Didn't even know what was going on with me. I was going through pain. My sister took me to hospital, and that's where I was basically being told that I was miscarrying. It was...
And how old were you then?
I was 18.
Okay.
Because I was 18. So it was really hard because I couldn't understand why this was happening. Though, as I said before, I wasn't connected in a mother to child level, but just knowing that you've lost a part of you was really, really hard to sort of take, from even a level of is there something wrong with me, kind of thing.
And will this affect me later as well?
Yes, yes. But again, the hospitals were really good at sort of, giving you the stats, right? I think you both ladies are probably aware that most women, I don't remember the percentage, but I think it's like 1 in 3 women experience miscarriage with their first pregnancy. So it wasn't an abnormal thing, but just the circumstances around that. But what was funny as well, like I explained as well to the nurses what had happened, and I was actually given an opportunity to actually speak to the police at the time, and I decided not to, and I don't know why. I guess it's part of that also comes from that mentality of protecting family, etc. And obviously because the abuser is my father's brother, so you don't want this person to sort of be arrested or whatever. And I guess we'll obviously maybe delve into that a bit more in terms of how the abusers always get protected, especially within the African community. So I said no. But again, I feel obviously time after that, when obviously life started getting back on track, as I said before, I was sent an angel for, that kept me alive. And again, I feel like the decision was taken from me by God, because I am, a Christian, and I strongly stand by that. I feel like life could have been maybe a lot worse, or it could have taken me on a different path if, I did go through with it. So, yeah, that was tough to deal with.
Must have been.
I can imagine knowing what you've achieved till date, because I know you, but I didn't know this story. Like, I'm just hearing it for the first time. I can't just help but think, how did you get to a point in your life where you could even still study, you could even still retain information in your head with everything you were going through? But I guess we're still going to get there, so...
Part of that, even in high school, I think I mentioned this before, where one of my aunt's husbands actually was like, isn't this girl supposed to be going through GCSEs just now? So he challenged my aunt that I was living with at the time, and she was like, oh, she's fine, she's clever, so no matter what. But it was actually really hard. I mean, I got all of my 9 GCSEs, but I could have definitely done better in different circumstances. But it's tough. There's a lot in my head, and I don't think I can remember ever sleeping 8 hours in my life. Even till this day, I'm not a good sleeper, because you're constantly thinking. There's always, you always have the worst case scenario in your mind. But yeah, it wasn't easy, to say the least.
Interesting. And just for those just joining us, at this point, where was your dad? Where was your mom?
My father passed in 1996.
Right.
So I think I mentioned this last time. Like his passing was really hard on me as well, because I feel like he never got to know the circumstances that he sent me to, because my father and I had a really, really great relationship, as much as it was just for a few years, but we were really close. And my mother, at this point, I guess it's fair to say, from when I left my father's house, there was no contact at all with my mom's side of the family. How we were told is that, they wanted us to have just one household education, so they didn't want us to sort of be influenced by my mother's side, because they were perceived to be European in the style of raising their kids, whereas my father's family were very strict, traditional type of family. So I didn't see or speak to my mom again until 2013.
Wow.
From when I left my her family home in somewhere in the
that's
late
heavy.
80s.
That's heavy for a girl growing up. Not knowing that your mom is alive, but she's not in your life. That must have weighed heavily on you. Just as you were saying earlier, Juliet, around there's just something about moms.
Yes.
Just as our last guest was sharing how there were some things that dad just wouldn't help out, but mom would go over and beyond. So I guess you missed some of that growing up. That
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did not have any of that growing up. From, I guess, when I left my father's home, there wasn't really a person that I can say was a motherly figure. If anything, you know, my aunt, my first aunt that I was living with, I wanted that from her. You know, I even remember, like, because she used to do sewing and stuff, and, you know, I would save all of my pennies just to try and buy her a gift, and, like, it was always never enough for her. But yeah, I never really received that. And I guess to some capacity, growing up as well, I definitely had that complex of not having a father in your life, because they were single moms, if I can say that, and then also not having that motherly love. And I can say this for nothing, like, I never learned any of my I guess, you know, women stuff from anyone. It was either friends or things that you learn from school. Like, no one really sat me down and taught me about cycle, for example. Those were things that I had to learn for myself. So even with that said, I feel it also has affected me as a mother, because I know what I would have liked to have as a mom, but I did not have those what's the word I'm looking for, the influence to really see, like, oh, this is what a mother looks like, or this is what, you know, a father should be doing. You know, I'm trying from the best of my abilities to be that parent, but the most I can feel I can do for my kids is just be a provider and you know, do the best to sort of be there for them. But it does affect your whole life, because you question everything.
And you've got at least
I have a daughter, and it's been challenging to say the least, and that in itself as well is quite heartbreaking, because I now sort of look back and I'm like, where did I go wrong? You know, as much as I feel I want to be there, I always pictured, when I have my own daughter, we're gonna be like
best
this.
Buzz.
You know, and that hasn't happened. And again, you know, when we talk about the things that you carry with you, I feel like that this is now my new battle, you know, dealing with the things that I've carried with me without probably realizing, and how that has also affected
as you say, that
my
trauma, that generational trauma, I think
daughter,
was always saying earlier. So I mean, back to the story, if you don't mind. So got to Liverpool, lost the pregnancy. Did you feel, was there a sense of, okay, this is a restart button?
Fresh start.
Or
I partied my life in
that's a restart button.
That was a restart button. But that only lasted a few weeks. I guess, you know, when you're home, when you've been raised in such a strict household, and everything that you know is your home. I partied like non-stop for like 2 weeks, and then I was like,
that's it. It's not natural,
It's not for me. But yeah, so I obviously tried to start over. I had a job, if you can call it that. So
at this point, you had GCSEs.
Yes,
but not A levels.
So I had GCSEs and A levels.
Okay.
Yes. So then I met someone, and yeah, I that could probably be another whole story. But again, just going back on the daddy issues and, you know, the love issues, etc., not really fully comprehending what love is. I thought I found love, because obviously all of that was always absent in my life.
And I guess you didn't know what love means anyway, to an extent. Yeah. So if someone came presenting something to you that looks like what you think, you'd be like, oh yeah, this looks like love. He loves me. He calls me. He buys me flowers according to what you see on TV.
Yeah.
And I was just going to ask again, I was going to ask something, but it's gone off my head. I'm sure you're happy. I'm sure you're thinking, oh no, God's got him. God's got him.
Honestly, I'm not in that mood at the moment. I'm just still like trying to just,
No, I do remember. So at this point, you're in Liverpool, moving on. Everything that has happened to you up till that time, Do all the family members know about it?
So, yes.
Okay.
It was rumored, in many capacities. And my sister was definitely quite vocal as well in terms of what had happened. And remember when I said that he had a partner, obviously, at the time as well. And unless she looks at me in the face and says she didn't know, I feel there was definitely signs that she was aware. And I believe that she also confided to people, so that obviously built up those rumors. But I can tell you for nothing that till this day he's one of his sisters who for a time I really considered a mother is defending my uncle and basically saying that I was the one who seduced him and things like that.
And even if that was the case, I mean, even if you said this thing, it's still you're still a child. Yeah. So
and that's the thing in our culture. Because I know you're from Congo, I'm from Nigeria, and there's still that perception. I don't know where people think victims are not the real victims. Yeah.
Victim blaming.
It's mind-boggling. I feel like throwing up each time I hear that. Like, for how long are you? And the sad thing is, you find out mostly they're women saying this.
Yeah,
and you're like, for God's sake, like.
What I mean is the women actually defending the abusers.
Yes. Because most of the time the abusers are close home. They're close. How do they say it now? Like, they're like people that they're not. The people and usually it's always the
family
uncles or family members. So it's almost like they're trying to protect something beyond what's going on, which I do not get. And
it's even happening in the Senate now with the whole thing that's happening.
Going on right now.
Senate means
Natasha, I think I heard. Is it that one?
In Nigeria, just put context for our listeners. Okay.
Yeah, I think I heard something like that. I'm not sure of the senator's name, but you're
Natasha,
right.
I don't know her last name.
Yeah, I think
Natasha.
I heard something like that. And the same old story.
Yeah, and it's mostly
same old story. Mostly the women, So women listening out there, it's about time we just really do better. Honestly,
and even to add to that, and sometimes it's not just the family, the church as well plays
I was gonna come into that. Yep.
And I don't want to speak on somebody else's story, but someone very close to me was abused by again family member at the age of 12, and I remember that when she spoke about it. Literally, there was a whole meeting with the pastor, and there sat this young lady, 12 years old, right? 12 years old, sat this young lady and said that it was her fault because of how she dressed, mini skirt, etc. And I'm just like, just think today, right? In 2025, if you look at high school girls, right? Like, it's normal, right?
Yeah.
And now imagine someone abusing all these girls because they're wearing mini skirts.
Can you imagine?
And the person who did this carried on with their partner, etc. And this person had to continue to live in that household, carrying that
burden
with her,
and everything.
And it's really sad, and I don't know why and how we can sort of fix that. And again, this is why I'm here. I feel that the more people can get comfortable telling the stories, not only can we maybe recognize when something is not right, especially with young ladies, but really speak up and stand up for people who have, and not just young ladies, I mean boys as well are going through abuse.
Yes, absolutely. And so all that's happened, and I guess we referenced it earlier around you had a reset button, went partying, then met someone, started a relationship. And I guess, should I say there was a bit of normal life after that, quote and unquote, yes? Yeah. How, without getting too much into the story of what happened with you and your partner that you met then, so how did you start the process of healing?
Yeah.
I mean, when did you even recognize that there's a problem and need? I think this will be powerful.
I can't say that there was a start from the healing, but definitely recognizing that there was a problem. And the first time that happened was definitely during intimate moment where there was a look, and that just completely set me off. And again, we're talking, this is a few years after what happened, and you don't realize that you carry those things in your subconscious. So I really wasn't sure how to navigate that, and my reaction at the time was definitely, I sort of went back into that space where I was definitely showing that I'm not interested. I don't want, I just don't want to be taken back into that space. And then you just move on. Something just happens where, you're sort of able to get past it. And I guess that in itself is sort of my survival mode. Like, I just find the strength somewhere and I'm just able to sort of get past it. You go through a moment where, you're feeling those stresses come back, but you then just are able to get past it. But I've definitely learned over time how to really reflect with myself. I've tried therapy, I've tried speaking to pastors, but I find that my self-reflection is the best thing, because I'm really able to sort of have that honest conversation with myself and sort of say, like, do you think that was right? Like, why do you think you did that? Which I don't think there's certain things that people can't get out of you, because only I understand, the extent of the space that I'm finding myself in that moment. But to answer your question, there's never been a sort of pivotal moment where I'm like, oh, I need to do something about this. I just dealt with the pocket of reoccurrences as they happened and as they occurred. But I feel that it definitely got to a point where I needed to sort of have that conversation and realize, like, why is it still hurting? Why am I still not able to sort of talk about this without breaking, crying? And these people, we are connected for life, right? Because if my cousin has a wedding, I have to face these people. If, whatever's happening around my close family, I have to. And this has been as real as recently, last week on Tuesday. I think if you recall, I talked about the sort of aunt that I felt quite connected with, that her husband tried to make a pass at me. And because obviously I rejected him, he sort of started to make life a bit difficult for me as well as my sister in the home. And obviously I'm very close to his kids, actually one of his child in particular, who's not my aunt's child, but it's his child. But she's been part of my life since she sort of, came into the picture. They lost a brother recently, and obviously that's his son. And I went to the funeral to assist, and I had to come face to face with this person. And this is when I know that I'm healing and I'm definitely on the right path. The fact that I could face this person who pretty much made my life a bit of, hell at the time, and sort of say, sorry for your loss. I'm here, to sort of support the family and move on. And felt sad for them in a sense, because I'm just like, God is dealing with you. When you see people and you just know, and you're looking at their lives and you're looking at, when they say, like, things follow you, I strongly believe in, like, when I'm praying for my life and my kids, I also want to pray for people who may have said to somebody like my dad or whatever, what you're doing today will follow your kids. Like, I always make sure that I can break those, barriers. But I'm looking around, I'm saying, you're paying through your kids. You're paying for a lot of things that you've done. But it's things that I have to face with, and that's when I know that my healing is really happening, that I don't have to look at this person with anger. There's actually a saying I said to my sister, I'm like, when I say God bless you, that's when you know that I'm done. God can now deal with you, because if I keep talking about you and keep complaining, I'm still in that hurt space. But if I say God bless you, then I know that I'm done. But
you mentioned something. You talked about the anger. Do you think it's because it's family? Do you think that's what hurts more? Or I'm just trying to understand, like, I mean, I know where the anger is coming from, but do you think that it's emphasized because it's family?
Yeah, trusted people.
Yeah, like people that you, exactly, that's the word, like you trust, or people that you expected would have been protectors. Yeah.
If you asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said yes. But I feel today I realized that the anger was against myself. It wasn't even so much that because somebody did something, but it's just looking back and thinking, you should have known better. You should have known that hug wasn't just a hug, that there was something a bit more strange. Like, why didn't you walk away? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that, to sort of protect yourself from being in that situation in the first place? I love really hard, especially when you put family. It's like, that's it. You have my full attention. And today I'm definitely realizing that hurt was more, and that anger was more directed at myself than I could possibly direct it at them. And that's why I keep saying, like, for me, if I talk in anger on someone, it's because I've not fully, I guess, analyzed why I'm feeling that way. But once I've had a sort of chance to sort of reflect and self-reflect, and I feel like a lot of that anger was mostly directed at me.
Okay, so self-reflection worked for you, and you can only speak for yourself. But would you say therapy still works? And what was the other option? I think speaking to pastors, you said. Yeah. So do you think the religious or the faith aspect works alongside with therapy as well?
When I tried therapy, it wasn't for the abuse. It was more around my marriage was falling apart, and I was trying to fix it, right? And if anything, therapy made us both realize at the time that there was no fixing. Like, we are absolutely done, and how can we make this as amicable as possible? But I love the fact that you've said religion and faith, right? Because I feel my faith has played a big part and religion hasn't. I feel religion has let me down, and when I talk about religion, it's the church, it's the entity and everything has let me down every time. Whereas my faith, and it's really important to install that in your kids from a young age, because I feel if I didn't have that, I would have been really lost. And I don't go to church today, but if you need a prayer warrior, like I am there, because my faith is that strong. And I feel it's really that relationship that I have with Christ, and that relationship that I have in my faith, that has really helped me to sort of lighten that weight and just be able to sort of say, like take this for me, and just make it lighter, make me see better, so that I can sort of deal with it with a clear mind, with the clear eyes. But no, religion has definitely let me down in many ways.
Okay, so in terms of the abuse, what really worked for your own story or your own life is self-reflection.
Yes.
And you still do that, an ongoing thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's completely ongoing. Like, and one important, huge part of, my journey today is also the relationship I have with my husband. I laid it to him, like, fully when we first met. Like, if you're not scared to run away now, and you say you want to have this journey with me, let's have that journey. Apologies, I thought I'd switched it off. Let's have that journey. And he recognizes the signs sometime before even I do, and he would call it out, and and I'm sort of able to sort of, okay, I see what you're seeing. I now need to figure out what's taking me there, and I know that stress is a huge factor for me. Stress just takes me into this place where I'm worried now about everything, but yeah, I would say my husband is definitely my rock today. And I'm able to talk to him about everything. He was there with me last Tuesday, and and yeah, he still can't believe sometimes that, you know, people can do these type of things to you. But yeah, I would say he's definitely been a huge part as well of that healing process.
And you said you laid it.
Holla.
At the beginning.
Laid it all out at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say? I'm guessing a lot of people would not do that.
No.
They would just
No.
live a normal life and sort of suffer silently. Would you say that has helped? And if you were to advise someone, would you advise them to maybe do that, just so they can get someone that can come on the journey with them, or someone that can say, no, this is not my bag, I'm stepping away?
I feel it's important to have that conversation with someone, especially if you know that you're still dealing with a lot, right? Because I feel sometimes a lot of relationships sort of die because those conversations, and it's not just in terms of, you know, mental health, etc. It can even be an illness, right? Not everyone maybe wants to share that initially, and if I find out 6 months along the line maybe it's not something that I want to deal with, that's 6 months of someone's life that you've wasted, where you could have probably had those conversations before. But for me, it was also more so, I also had 2 children at the time, right? And I'm like, not only do I have physical baggage, I also have emotional baggage.
I'm coming in heavy.
And he took it on. And, you know, there were definitely times where I said, like, you have an out. If you want out, like, this is the door, this is your opportunity. And, you know, we're almost going 20 years strong from when we first met, and you know, he's still here.
Impressive, fantastic. And I'm just thinking, for where you are now, just as you said, 20 years strong in your marriage, you've got 5 children.
Yes.
5 children. And Sade said earlier that knowing you're a strong career woman, and you're doing the wifing, you're doing the momming, if that's such a thing. You know, for someone that is maybe still younger and still dealing with this, what advice do you have for them?
I think the first thing I would probably say is that you're not alone, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of the time you feel that way because you don't know, first of all, who you can trust with this. You don't know how people will take it, and, you know, the amount of confusion and locomotion this could create, right? And sometimes you might tell yourself that actually dealing with this is better than dealing with all of that. But if I had to speak to myself at 18 at the time, I would have said, think about all these little girls that you've raised who are going to be possibly at the mercy of these people for the rest of their lives, right? And think about that. Like, yes, it's a heavy thing for yourself to deal with, but think about how many people you can save for just speaking up. And including yourself, you can really save yourself from speaking up. Not just save yourself from the situation, but also from, you know, putting yourself in a position where you're taking your own life. Like, can you imagine if I took my life then? I literally, I wouldn't be here. My kids wouldn't be here. My husband's life probably would be completely different today, you know. So
And they would just
And the
continue
abuser is
enjoying
still
their
gonna
lives.
live
Yeah.
and enjoy.
and they're still living and enjoying. So that would really be my advice. Like, you're not alone. You'll be surprised, like, by just speaking up, how many, you know, people can put their hands up and say they've gone through something similar, or someone could just be listening and knowing that they're also not alone, you know. So,
And
yeah.
I believe there are probably help centers. Is there anywhere they could go to,
Signposts.
Yeah.
like, probably read up or get support?
I should have probably researched that because
No, it's fine. It's okay.
but there's definitely a lot of, like, NHS helpline that you can, you know, reach out to. If obviously you're not comfortable with people within your family, you can speak to the NHS and they will direct you to help centers, etc. But again, I feel, you know, my sister was my rock. My best friends at the time were my rock. Like, there's always people around you that if you feel you can trust them, share with them. You know, that's the first part of not only the healing, it's just speaking. You don't know how much that just lifts the weight of what you're carrying by just speaking and sharing it.
And I'm just thinking, so someone, were you going to say something?
No.
So I was just thinking, you were?
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
go.
So do you think there's a purpose, like do you think there's some sort of purpose that based on your own experience you can sort of have something that would help other people that might be going through or that are still finding their healing?
No, that's okay. A purpose. I did not realize a purpose until the first time I shared a snippet of my story, and the amount of messages I received on LinkedIn from young ladies, and even some who were older, and just saying like, I've gone through the same thing, or I'm dealing with the same thing. And that for me, I would say, was the first thing that really empowered me to continue to speak about this. That's obviously part of my life that, is solely focused on abuse, etc. But I've definitely gone through other experiences in life that, honestly, for 40 years, I'm just like, Lord, give
a girl a break.
Yeah, keep using me to empower others. But when am I going to catch my break?
You did catch your break last year in Marrakesh.
Okay, I did. But remember as well, like I came to Marrakesh with heavy, in my heart too.
I know.
But yes, so and for me, it's really just important for me to keep sharing and keep bringing awareness, of the things that you could be thinking or even just going through that could really lead you to sort of make decisions that could change your life completely, either positive or negative. I come from an era of stats of young ladies who, had teenage pregnancies, drug abuse, etc. And even with everything that I've gone through, if I'm able to sort of take myself out of that statistic and say, okay, I've gone through all of that, but today, I have my family, I have my career. Yes, I'm still going through challenges in life, but I'm able to sort of navigate that a bit better, because if that didn't break me, like nothing else can break me.
And I think there may be some underplay with your story, or maybe because you're so familiar with your story, you think it's normal. So if someone told me your story without telling me where you are today, and they just told me everything, I'll be like, oh, she's probably
depressed.
Depressed, or like life. She's probably in a bad place in life today, but you're here. So I'm just thinking, how did, I don't know if there's a catalyst, like
snap.
Yeah, how come you turned out this way rather than how you should have turned out based on everything you've been through?
Remember, there's actually a couple of things. One thing was, I think I touched on this, like seeing my aunt when I first moved in Italy. She was obviously a housewife and financially solely dependent on her husband. He left her with nothing, like literally nothing. I think I mentioned this, like we were literally living in Italy, but we had no electricity. I used to have the radio that I would listen to. Sometimes we'll go to one of her friend's house to just watch TV. And this was my life in Italy. Like I left,
you left a big life in Congo
with, help, and we had cars and everything, to now having no electricity by choice, not because, you've had power cuts or whatever. But I remember, even at that tender age of 10, telling myself, first of all, that I never want to marry a Congolese man.
Oh, well.
My husband is Congolese.
Your husband is Congolese?
Yes.
Oh, well.
But more so that I never want to feel financially dependent on anyone. And that, I would say, still drives me till this day, even though I do say to my husband, I'm tired, I want a break. But I feel that has definitely been a drive for me, right? At least from I always want to sort of find myself that I'm successful, that I'm a provider, that I can do that for my family, etc. That is definitely a driving force. And I do find that when you have something positive to sort of transfer your energy to, it sort of alleviates as well that experience, because you're like, okay, yes, I have all of that to deal with, but I have this to focus on. I've got Messiah, Mikai, Metin, Malik, Mianda, and my husband, all of those people to sort of focus on. And that just makes that whole experience even more beautiful. Obviously, I appreciate it was never always like this, right? And even with my husband, we've dealt with loss. Like we lost 2 pregnancies back to back at 20 weeks. So I literally had to give birth to my kids, knowing that they would not survive. And that put a huge strain on on our relationship and my trust in God as well. Like I never wanted to hear anything from anybody. Come and mention to me the Bible. I'm just like, you think I had demons in me, like the way I would reject everything. But my faith is strong, and I believe that had to happen for me to really also wake up in terms of where I was putting my priorities, right? My husband has been amazing to sort of support me in my career journey, but that was in, I sacrificed being there for my kids, and just seeing that journey where I'm struggling now to have babies kind of puts everything into perspective as well. Like I've abused this blessing that I've had, and now it's been taken away from me. But obviously I've had 2 other kids, and again both are boys, and the 2 that I lost were boys. Again, people might call me delusional, but I believe in what my experience is, and I believe that that was a checking moment for me as well, that God wanted me to see what I could have lost as well.
So I'm just thinking, with everything that's happened and with where you are in life, because you mentioned earlier when I was chatting to you some of the things you're doing and wanting to do based on your experiences. So you started volunteering with Black Professionals United Kingdom, right? Do you want to quickly touch on that?
Yes. So I obviously reached out because I was like, I want to give back, and I want to make people realize that it's okay. It's okay to go through these things. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to acknowledge that this is a huge weight on your mental health, and some people might call me crazy most of the time, like I don't know, but I want our community to really feel comfortable having these discussions, and I want to create a safe space where we can do that, where we can, and everyone is welcome, whether it being you're from the supporting the abuser or whatever, but let's have honest conversations in terms of why do you feel it's okay to sort of blame the victim, and also really have that safe space for victims to sort of share their story and be acknowledged that you've gone through this, and we accept you, we forgive you, and finding as well the strength for them to forgive themselves. I feel it's so important because it's things that are not spoken enough, and it happens every single day. I'm sure you can walk down the street and have a conversation with a young lady or a young man, and they would either tell you that they know someone or themselves has gone through some level of abuse. So I feel it's really important for us to sort of normalize having these conversations. You said that I feel like maybe I'm talking about this freely and naturally, but it took a long time. I even remember we had a girls' trip with all of my cousins where I shared this, and I cried like a baby, because it was the first time that I was able to sort of be vulnerable with some of my cousins that had not been part of that journey. But it still felt safe. It felt okay. It felt, they had questions, and I felt comfortable enough to answer. And that's just what I want to sort of be able to create for others, for everyone to really get to that space where I am today, that I can share without feeling, I wouldn't say hurt, but without feeling the heaviness of it all.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so hopefully soon we'll be able to have that launch event.
Yep, we will.
And,
we will.
Yeah.
And it's good how you've gone through that and you've come out to say, how can I help? I've been through that. I'm still on a journey. I'm still trying to get to wherever it is I'm trying to get to, but how can I use the lessons I've learned in the last 40 something years to support others that are maybe going through it or coming out of it and don't know how to deal with their new reality. So I mean, for that, you're brave. Well done. And thank you very much for coming here for the second time to share your story. We don't know how many people this will impact, but I'm very confident it will impact at least one person, and that's what we're trying to achieve, right? Because it's a domino effect. I don't know if Juliet or Sade has anything to add.
No,
before
it's
wrap.
just me here thinking as a mom with a girl as well. It's just tough because even, Janet being someone that's experienced it, and like she said, you'd find that most women, they've at some point in their lives experienced a level of abuse, some sort of abuse. And it's just a crazy world. And I'm thinking, we've got daughters. How do we even begin to, because honestly, this is a fear I have and I pray about, like, because they are going to grow up, they're going to leave your house, they're going to start their lives. Growing up, I never lived outside my family, and I'm not sure if that in a way kind of shielded me from some things, because you find that most of those people are vulnerable, and it happens when they are just like given to, or maybe passed on to people that you trust to look after them and do the right things. So even though from the things I hear, I'm still very protective of my daughter. I'm very paranoid because I hear some things and you feel like sometimes I get questions, are you sure? I'm like, I'm not covering up anything or not trying to say anything. It's just from the things I hear alone, it's just so. And I wonder for parents, because you've got a daughter as well, does that impact the way you see things in her life? Do you still allow her to be herself? Or, like, for example, would you want her to go stay with any family member? Would I want my daughter to? I trust my family members, don't get me wrong, but it's just that constant fear of trying to just protect. And where do you stop protecting? Because at some point she has to live her life. What can we do as mothers?
Lord,
that's a serious question.
That's a serious question. We probably won't be able to fully answer in 2 minutes. But you can give any.
Trust your guts, right? And I feel that is the first thing. Even when I was talking about forgiving yourself, there were moments where you're like, this doesn't feel right. But because you're like, it's family, or maybe I'm over it. Trust your guts. Trust that instinct, because that will never fail you. If it doesn't feel right, don't let it happen.
It's not right. Maybe.
I would say that is the first thing. Just trust that motherly instinct and speak to your kids. Speak to your kids. Like there's a thing that I saw somewhere where now I'm so intentional about it. Don't just say, "How was your day at school?" Or did you have a good day? Because you will get straight answer. But if you expand on why was it a good day?
I do
Why
that.
was it a good day?
I'm glad to hear that. I do that. Thank you so much.
That's what
Janet.
I will be asking them now. But I know Juliet is gagging to ask you a very quick question that must be answered in 20 seconds.
So we have a tradition on the show where the previous guest leaves an advice for the next guest. So our previous guest was our iconic Sade Adeyemi, and she said that you have to wear your confidence. So it's just, she related it to fashion, that you're not just wearing a dress, but you're wearing the confidence, and it's the confidence that carries the entire outfit. I hope I got that right.
Yeah, you did. Spot on.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
what's for the next guest?
Take risks.
Take risk.
Take
risk.
For
someone that walks in, for someone that walks in compliance, take risk.
Because I would say that I've not been great at it, but the past couple of years I've really explored that space. What's the worst that could happen? Someone can say no, you move on. Or they will say yes, and it's a great journey.
Fantastic.
So take risk.
Fantastic. Take risk, everyone, and take measured risk. Right? And just say, trust your gut and take risk at the same time. Everyone, we've had an amazing show, and thank you very much, Janet.
Thanks,
thank you, Sade. Thank you, Juliet. Learned so much today. Hopefully this show and those that listen, it will spark an action or a reaction for people, and hopefully get people on a healing journey. It's been myself, Enoch, and it's been Moments with Sade and Enoch. Until next time, take care, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.